Chapter 1. The Return to Work. After a year of being a stay-at-home dad, he was back at work. It was a new chapter, one that came with a mix of excitement and adjustment. They had always been a strong team. She knew her husband inside and out, his loyalty, his openness, the way he always gave her access to his phone and never hesitated to share anything. There was mutual respect and an unspoken understanding that defined their relationship. Life had changed. Their daughter was finally off the daycare waitlist, allowing both of them to return to their routines. As he started his new job, she had no worries. They were still as close as ever, their relationship vibrant and their sex life healthy. Everything felt solid. But then, the first day of his new job brought something neither of them expected. Chapter 2. The Odd Discovery. It had been a busy day at his high-security workplace, one filled with cameras monitoring every corner of the facility. There had been a power outage, and to avoid wasting food, the company decided to throw a BBQ for all the employees. He texted her throughout the day, keeping her updated, as he always did. He told her lunch was provided, and she knew the meal she had packed for him would come home uneaten. His text reassured her that everything was fine, nothing out of the ordinary. He came home right on time, as always. Their daughter had been picked up from daycare without delay, and the evening began like any other. She started her routine, unpacking his lunch bag while he spent time with their daughter. It was part of her household duties, something they had mutually agreed upon. He handled other tasks, and together they made their home function like a well-oiled machine. But then something fell out of his lunch bag that stopped her in her tracks, a pair of blue female underwear. Their daughter picked them up, curious and innocent, asking what they were. The sight of them, crusty and unfamiliar, immediately made her heart race. The texture was strange, like something from a teenage make-out session, and it was hard to process what she was looking at. Her husband didn't panic. He didn't act defensive. He told her to put them in a plastic bag, to wash their hands, and that they'd figure it out. His calmness was both comforting and confusing. Chapter 3. Unraveling the Mystery. They had been together long enough for her to recognize when he was lying. He wasn't a good liar, always nervous and jumpy, like a trapped animal when backed into a corner. But this time, he was as calm as could be. He said he had no idea where the underwear came from, that he was just as confused as she was. His first instinct was to ask for video footage from work. It was a high-security facility, and even though the power had gone out, the cameras were running on backup generators. He figured someone might have planted the underwear in his lunch bag during the group lunch, a bizarre prank or malicious act. It didn't make sense to either of them, but his calm demeanor suggested he genuinely didn't know what was going on. She wanted to believe him, and on some level, she did. He had always been fiercely loyal, never giving her a reason to doubt him. But the sight of those crusty blue briefs stirred something in her an unease, a question that refused to be ignored. Why were they in his bag? How did they get there? Was this truly some strange prank, or was there something more sinister going on? Chapter 4. Theories and Doubts. As she replayed the events in her mind, the situation grew more complicated. Her husband's workplace was secure, full of cameras, and constantly monitored. If anyone had planted the underwear in his bag, there would be evidence, right? And why would anyone go to such lengths to pull off such a prank? The whole thing seemed far-fetched, but at the same time, so did the idea of her husband cheating. He had been with her all day, in earshot of their kids, their protective dog ever watchful. There hadn't been any signs of previous infidelity, no suspicious behavior, no missed calls or late nights. And yet, the evidence in her hands told a different story. The blue briefs were real. The crust was real. The confusion was real. Her mind started spinning with possibilities. Could someone at work be jealous of her husband? Could they have planted the underwear to cause trouble? Or was there something else going on, something her husband wasn't telling her? She didn't want to jump to conclusions. After all, she trusted him. But the situation was too strange to ignore. Chapter 5. The Crossroads. They agreed to look into the security footage. It was the only way to get answers, to figure out if this was all some sick joke or if something more serious was at play. Her husband remained cool and collected, reassuring her that he would do whatever it took to clear things up. He didn't seem worried, and that gave her some comfort. But even as they waited for answers, the questions lingered. Was this truly an innocent mistake, or had something changed? Could their relationship withstand this bizarre test of trust, or would it leave a permanent mark on their bond? She didn't know what to think. The facts didn't add up, and the more she thought about it, the more uncertain she became. But for now, she had no choice but to trust her husband and hope that the truth, whatever it was, would set things straight.